Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is the Social Authority Show, Marketing Monday edition, with your boys, Pat Hilton and Zach Hoffman. It doesn't get any bigger than this.
How are you doing today?
Buddy? Dude, I'm doing
well,
awesome.
Doing well.
I'm doing awesome. You're in Los Angeles today.
I am. I'm over actually in Santa Monica traveling. Yeah.
He's a working man, folks. It's almost like if you go and you meet people and you introduce yourself to people, your business can grow, Zach. That's fascinating. Tell the people about this.
For sure. No, I'm out here for a few meetings. Definitely, it's a beautiful place out here in the country. Los Angeles is an awesome city, and there's so much expanse here, and there's so much to, see and do, but definitely being out here for some meetings. So gonna be cooped up a little bit, taking some important meetings, but also going to be going to do some site visits with some clients. So I'm excited about it. And awesome part of the country, man.
Well, dude, it's awesome too. And, people take shots at California a lot when you're the biggest. You're always going to get hate. And California is one of the biggest economies in the entire world by itself. And so, I used to live in San Diego. In my opinion, that Southern California area, it's the most beautiful place I've ever been to in my life. That's just my personal opinion. I have not been all over the world, folks, so don't consider me some worldly traveler. But San Diego, I don't know that anyone would argue with me, is one of, if not the most beautiful place on the planet. And Santa Monica is only like 40 minutes away. Santa Monica's gorgeous. How's the weather there today?
It's a little cool. It's a little overcast, but it's clearing up. So it's a little bit earlier over here than the rest of the country, 3 hours behind. So.
Yeah. I always kind of liked that about California, the fact that I was a little bit behind in time, because if I got up super early, I was on time with everyone else, and I was way ahead of everyone in California. That always worked out really well for me.
For sure. And you can finish your day early and start the day.
What do we got on the hopper today? You had some AI stuff you were touching on. I want to talk about this AI stuff with you and the people.
Yeah, so definitely more and more is coming out about AI and athletics and how superstar athletes are starting to work AI plans into their regimens. A few other topics we got are brands and personalities. Was able to watch a few different brand movies, which were very interesting. So it's about a 45-minute to an hour show all about the life story of an actual brand itself, and talk a little bit about some of the things that we're seeing working effectively in marketing today. But yeah, you want to hop right into it?
Let's do it. Let's jump into it. It's Monday. It's St. Patty's Day. It's the St. Patty's Day special. We're two older dudes that don't drink before noon anymore. I don't drink at all. I don't know if you drink. You can drink socially. Zach can handle a beer or two. Old Patty will have 20. Old St. Patty, you'll be scraping me off the parking lot with the leprechauns.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm not doing much for St. Patty's Day, but it is St. Patrick's Day, so definitely good luck, and definitely hope it's a great day for those celebrating.
And you know what? You create your own luck, Zach. I would not be surprised, folks, if Zach got some kind of lucky break with some awesome people in Santa Monica because he took the action and went out there and marketed and shook hands and invested in himself, still made it to the broadcast, still did his stuff, still did his content. He's doing everything he's already doing, then adding more on top of it. This is what we talked about before the broadcast. I think people, they get to this time of the year, like the middle of March, and they want the 4th of July body, and they want the $1 million paychecks, and they want that big result. And now is the time where people have started to let go of the gas from the January 1st resolutions. And now's the time to really double down, because now's the time where you can get a lot of momentum going into the summer. So I love the fact that you're out there doing this.
For sure. But yeah, just hop into it. We were talking about brands and personalities, and even I think you were saying that you believe that Steve Jobs is one of the originators of really linking a persona to a brand.
Absolutely.
There's not a bigger brand out there than Apple. Also, a brand that stood a lot of trials and tribulations to get to the level that they're at today. It wasn't a straight ride for Apple, and there's a lot of people that kick themselves that wish they bought that stock at $1 in the early 2000s because
like all of us.
Yeah,
We all
but
watched
you know,
Forrest Gump and then still didn't buy the stock. What's wrong with all of us?
what year was Forrest Gump? That was in the 90s, right?
Um, I believe it was in the 90s. Let me confirm that with the internet. 1994. Oh, could you imagine if we all would have bought Apple stock in 96? But pre iPod, pre iPad, pre iPhone, we'd all be billionaires. And you know what? The
Hey,
funny thing is, Zach, I'd still be broadcasting with you live on Marketing Monday right now.
for sure. Do you think Tom Hanks bought a bunch of stock as he was doing that? And
I don't know. Let's look it up. Does Tom Hanks own a bunch of Apple stock? If he's smart, he does. While
oh,
it's
he
not
definitely practiced it in his
while
script,
it's
right?
not publicly confirmed, he does have a multi-year deal with Apple TV Plus through his own production company, Playtone. So number one, he has his own production company that they produce content for Apple TV Plus. That's
Ah,
crazy. Apple TV Plus, what the heck is that?
just another streaming service out there.
More streaming. If you're not streaming, why aren't you streaming? Even Pat and Zach are streaming.
For sure, for sure. Well, to jump into it, definitely some of these movies I was able to see. One was a Delta movie called The Steepest Climb, and then another one was the Porsche movie called Edith. So the Delta movie talked a lot about their trials and tribulations throughout time, essentially surviving 9/11, then the economic recession, then they also had the pandemic. And these were all instrumental events when you run an airline that basically took a big shot at Delta. But the team over there united together and definitely got the company to a whole nother level. The organization has had a lot of long-term employees and a lot of long-term buildup. It's a very interesting story to just, hear how they grew, how they're integral to the city of Atlanta. And there's a lot that goes into the organization that's, beyond the cover. You look at a lot of these airlines today and you just think they're just, airplanes in the air and but there's people that care. I mean, the people at the airlines, they're dedicated. They're trying to travel, get you to travel places safely, between the pilots, the and the flight attendants and everybody that makes those flights run to the people in the air traffic control towers. I mean, it's an intricate operation that has to happen. But when it came to Delta, they had times when they could barely turn on the lights. And right now, they're one of the leaders in flight. I myself am I'm a loyal Delta fan. I definitely enjoy flying it over other airlines. But it's definitely an interesting story, and it's interesting to see how these organizations and these companies are producing these movies to gain a retained audience to learn more about their organization. It's a great way to storytell and build brand loyalty. It was essentially about a 45-minute to 50-minute movie interviewing various executives, highlighting things that happened in the news. But it told a great story as a consumer as to why you want to be loyal to the brand or continue to work with the brand.
Yeah, dude, I think that the storytelling piece of companies and the person that runs the company are essential now because like we always talk about storytelling and marketing, but I think storytelling has just become a part of pop culture because like you said, people watch movies, people watch TV shows, people watch Netflix, they're streaming podcasts, and it's the stories that people tell that invoke the emotion that gets the response. And
Oh, for
so
sure.
how do we help brands, personal and business, tell their stories better? That's always what I'm looking at, you know?
Yeah, and definitely it takes time. I mean, look, Netflix, where a lot of these organizations like produce or distribute their content, that's a story of David versus Goliath. I mean, they entered the
Mm.
market when rental stores were still big, Blockbuster Video was still a big thing. And they won, Netflix won in the long haul. But to align with different like stories, the reason the Delta story is so inspiring is because the brand power and just a lot of it is all about loyalty. So when you like go on the flights, you usually meet people that are loyalists to Delta as as passengers, and then you also see an organization where there's, like I said, there's a lot of long-term employees that have been there for a long time, that made sacrifices to stay with them for as long as they have, because it was called the steepest climb because it was definitely a challenge to get to where they are today. It wasn't just a straight shot. And what
Yeah.
tomorrow brings, who knows? Because even like when COVID happened, I mean, their revenues dropped by literally, it was like 95%, like just astronomical numbers. And it was a really like harrowing story as to like how they bounced back, and just really amplified just the story itself that we all just recently lived through.
Yeah, and it's something that the quicker the quicker you can reflect on something that already happened. I have talked about this in my book, The Viral Window. When something happens and it's huge, the quicker you cover it and the more precise you are and the quicker you release it, the quicker you get a response from people. Dude, people forget about stuff. I think that's part of the reason why attention spans are so low, is because number one, people are moving so much faster. They have less time to sit and consume anything. Back in the day, Led Zeppelin comes out with Stairway to Heaven. People have no problem sitting and listening to the song for 6 or 7 minutes. These days, getting someone to do anything for 6 or 7 minutes is a challenge. So taking that relevant stuff and doing a quick review or telling that story keeps it fresh in people's minds, makes them remember it longer.
Oh, for sure. And then even to take it to another iconic brand that had a movie for itself. And these movies are great because they're only like 45 to 50 minutes. So they work themselves into the climax pretty quickly.
Right.
And they build the story quickly because I myself have trouble, paying
It's
attention
almost
to a
like a
movie.
TV episode. It's almost like a show episode, an extended show.
Oh, it's a pure production, just for their self purposes, and it makes a lot of sense. Another one was the Porsche movie, and it's called Edith. So it's about a car that they named Edith. That was a 911 that they were pursuing a record to get to the peak of essentially the highest peak that a car has actually ever been to. And it was a cool story. And it's another brand where there's a lot of loyalists, like when it comes to the drivers themselves. And an inspiring story because they didn't get it right the first time. They
Mm.
essentially got to their goal point on the third try, which was their last try. And it was an inspiring story where essentially they had a race car driver that was driving it, and then they had hikers assisting the car in getting to the peak of the mountain
Hmm.
to get this record. So it wasn't just a drive because there was no way to make it up these mountains in
Right.
South America that they were climbing to the top of. They were going up to it was over 26,000 feet in elevation to meet the record. And it took persistence, resilience, and a lot of what the inspiration and the work that it takes to be part of their brand was all told in that story. It was very DNA rich, to connect with the audience that eventually does, get a Porsche, or has the ability to be part of that club. Essentially, the story of the persistence and the resilience of the Porsche team is inspiring to everyone. It was something to see because this goal of reaching that peak united the entire engineering team, the racing team, and brought people together that never thought they would have worked on such a project just
Mm.
because of how inspiring it was to be part of it. And there's so many things, so many layers to it, like hiking to 26,000 feet elevation. They say that the oxygen is at like a 30% rate of what you get at sea level. So, even like digging or communicating, all of these things become really complex and challenging. And thinking on your feet to break records and get to that next level is just, it's not, it's definitely takes a strong person to get there.
That's crazy. And dude, I bought a Porsche. I drive a Porsche, and it's the best car. I would argue that people who drive sports cars, real sports cars, right? Because there's a difference between like Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Porsches, right? And they all are sports cars, but it's a preference thing at a certain point. And for me, like Lambos and Ferraris, like it's like those are like the real estate guru cars. You know, the Porsche, that's for the real man that knows that his car is fast, but he doesn't need to be so loud about it. He just knows that he'll take you on the stretch there, on the back stretch. And so I think that it's a representation for me when I get into that car and I drive it every day to the gym. That's where I need to be. I think I look at the car as a vehicle to get me to where I need to be to execute on what I need to do. And there's no excuse. If it gets to X amount of time on the clock and I haven't gone to the gym and the car is sitting downstairs in the garage, what did you even buy this thing for? You're not going to get in it and go use it and make yourself better. And so if you're going to invest in a car that is a more expensive car or something that is your preference and it's a little bit pricier, make sure you use that car to get a result that is so outstanding in your life that no one can argue that that car wasn't the correct purchase for you. Because for me, I am not a car guy. I have one car. It's that one car. I will probably drive that car until it just disintegrates. And so for me, I always grew up like, that's not for me. A Porsche isn't for me. A Bugatti's not. I looked up what's the fastest sports car. It says the Bugatti Chiron Super Sport 300 Plus can achieve a top speed of 304 miles an hour.
That's wild.
Might be a little bit of a better sports car than mine, even though I ran my mouth. But either way, people, it's a preference thing.
Hey, man, it's definitely, it's an inspiration thing. But going back to brands and personalities.
You know me, I'll ramble forever, Zach. Keep us on pace, buddy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely when it comes to brands and personalities and telling stories, the Porsche brand does definitely tell an inspiring story of their feat to accomplishments.
I'm gonna check out the movie. I'm pumped about that. I'm glad you.
Yeah, I'll send you the title, like the snapshot. But definitely, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or another viewing platform. Yeah, to keep moving forward as AI keeps bridging into everything we do. There's more and more reports coming out that athletes are utilizing AI in their training. And this is essentially mind-blowing because, the superior athletes, I'll admit, I believe I'm 43 these days, so I'm a little older, but these superior athletes are growing up in a connected generation, right? So you have these superior athletes that are probably stepping into their prime when they're almost 14, 15 with this augmented reality, the goggles, and essentially they can map out the games, they can simulate the games and live experience it. I'm sure they're doing it at EA Sports or Electronic Arts. I'm sure they have labs and like rooms where these guys are wiring up and essentially running around in a 20 by 20, 20 yard by 20 yard premise to simulate the action of actually playing the game before it even happens, which is literally mind-blowing that can happen in today's world. I know that the quarterback for the Redskins last year was the first one to report it. But since, he did that, and he's in his early 20s, numerous other athletes are coming out and wanting to jump on the bandwagon for this type of training.
Dude, I was just telling my kid earlier because she likes this book and she's read it multiple times. And she was telling me she likes to read this book. And I was like, well, you learn something new every time you review. And I said that to her and I was like, man, you should try and remember that because it's totally true. You can read something 10 different times or watch a play 10 different times. You could get something different all 10 different times that you watch it. That was not possible before the data was there. So if you were playing basketball in the 1970s or 80s, you didn't have all the video footage that you have now 40 years later to review on basketball or football or soccer. And so when you're able to plug that into machine learning systems like what we're talking about, and it pumps out how to beat the Bulls defense in 1994, there could potentially have been a Utah Jazz team that could have pulled it off against the Chicago Bulls if they had all these ways to analyze how the Bulls did it. Too late now, but at the same time, this wasn't possible before. You couldn't cross-examine something before. Like, before Led Zeppelin did it, nobody knew it was possible. Or before this person did it, or Elvis, or whoever the artist is, Louis Armstrong, no one had ever heard it before. So nobody could ever make anything like it or play defense against it. And you know me, I always talk about the music industry, but it's such a great example of when you see something that works and you're like, all right, I'm going to make it sound like that. When you see this beats this team, of course you're going to freaking use it.
Well,
it's just basic.
You have to consider that if one team had it, then the other team would have had it. So the Bulls might have been that much better. So
that's true. They might have killed the Utah Jazz. You're right. So, you might have killed the Utah Jazz.
So, I still think they might have beat the Jazz. But essentially, like, if
the
you're
Jazz put up like the best fight of anybody, didn't they?
Yep. There's still a lot of people though that like have not utilized AI. So strongly encourage you that this is groundbreaking. This has changed the world. It's only been, man, we're only going on a couple of years at this rate.
A year or two. Like since it really got serious about March of last year when I started looking at it, and I was like, holy crap, this is so cool. Well, we might as well add, we'll write your scripts for you to what we provide people. Because why wouldn't we just give people what to say?
Yeah, well, it definitely, it does assist in a lot of ways in scripting and, providing you guidelines or doing
Still got to be good. You still got to know your stuff because the robot doesn't have the substance level. It's got the surface level, but sometimes it lacks the substance level. That comes from the human touch. And I think that's what you're getting at. Even if the Utah Jazz had Michael Jordan's whole playbook, he's still MJ.
And the
robot can't defend him.
He would have had the ability to reverse the playbook as well. So you have to consider that. But the playing field is definitely evolving. And as you see AI and technology continue to grasp into athletics, I think you're just going to see like a whole new formation of how it's utilized and how it allows these, athletes to get to a whole nother like super level. It's very, very interesting. And you're going to see hybrid athletes. I mean, it's just a matter of time.
Back in the day, we used to see you start to hit your prime about 25 to 35, 25 to 32, maybe even. But like you said, now it's like we've got 17 and 18-year-old kids dunking on people and becoming $100 million deals in the NBA. This is crazy.
Well, it's also awesome with the NIL because you do have a lot more athletes that are staying in NCAA sports now too. So I was watching some of the basketball and it's a lot more competitive than it was a few years ago because a few years ago it was just ghost town because these guys were just leaving for the NBA like you're saying at a young age. But now they're staying behind. Some of them are making more playing sports in college. And they're milking that opportunity. They're staying there, they're spending time there, they're getting their education. It shows in the sport. It's definitely a plus for the sport to be keeping these athletes. And so, like I said, I think that you're going to continue to see, AI is just like, if you see it being adopted by like some of the top athletes and like top performers to really accelerate what they're doing, you just seriously have to continue to consider it in the professional workspace and how you're utilizing it or not utilizing it and just giving it a whirl, just like testing it. It's not going to always be the concrete answer. You still have to review your work and do your work. But man, to shy away from it and make believe it's not existing is not something that you should be doing in order to stay ahead.
Totally correct. And while we sit here and we talk about AI, I think because Grandpa was here the other day, my wife's dad, my father-in-law, and we're talking about artificial intelligence and AI and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, how do I use it? I think people don't even know what the programs are. So I'm like, all right, well, ChatGPT is the easiest free thing to download on your phone and use right now. And so I showed you exactly how to use it. I think that people don't understand, some people, that AI, all it is like computer programs. They're like apps. just like anything else, like a calculator app. Well, ChatGPT is like the Encyclopedia Britannica app. It'll tell you anything. So I just showed him how to search on it. It works just like Google, but it's only information. It doesn't link out to anything. It's just all an informative educational platform. My kids use it, asking who the presidents were and all these kinds of things. And so the tools that you can use, number one, ChatGPT, great search tool, great for information, great for script writing or email writing or copywriting or any of those types of things if you issue it a prompt. And so you can figure that. I'm sure you can Google out how to prompt ChatGPT. And then for presentations, you can make presentations with Gamma or a lot of other presentation things. That's all free. You can build a website. There's a Durable. I think it's called Durable. But there's a bunch of different AI website builders. Get yourself a domain, build something for free, then hire Zach to make it good. And then, because the AI, again, the AI, it can make you a presentation. It can give you scripts. It can build you a website. But then you have to go in and optimize it. Here's where people screw up is that they think the AI is going to do the work for them or say it for them or get the deal for them. The AI can give you information, but it is your job to take that information and optimize it with your knowledge and your resources so that it is the industry leading, cutting edge version of what people need, because that's always going to be the difference maker. Anybody can get information. Information is free. It's all over the internet. But execution and accountability, that's going to cost you something, because a robot can't do the work for you. It can give you the information, but it can't do the things that it tells you to do. It's going to give you all the workout steps, all the things to say, all the things for the website that Zach needs you to build, all the things I need you to do on the video. You still got to do it.
Hey, I mean, it's interesting though, and to kind of wrap this topic though, being out here in California, I drove next to a Waymo, those self-driving cars. And man, I get it.
Were you driving or were you in an Uber?
No, I rented a car. I enjoy the roads in Los Angeles. They're fun.
Well, yeah, of course they are.
It's like a little bit of getting into the movies of Fast and the Furious. Even when you're going 50 or 60, 100%. You're racing out here.
Bro, it's the Fast and the Furious in the slow lane just to maintain the speed limit. It's the Fast and the Furious.
You could go from 50 to dead stop, and you better be paying attention on the road.
You better be ready.
What's that?
It could be a dead stop in one lane and 90 in the other lane. And it could be the fast lane, could be the lane that's stopped, and everybody's going 90 in the middle lane.
Yep. So it's definitely, you got to pay attention. Definitely keeps you on your toes driving out here. But yeah, to see that bionic car essentially driving itself with a passenger in the back. I mean, we're already essentially there in a lot of ways. I mean, yeah, some of the things that you might see with robotics in the next few years, if they get released into the wild, it's going to be interesting. And what I mean being released into the wild, I mean just like taken out of the lab and put into I don't want to say it, but they'll be put out into
into the world.
Definitely, I think, what's that?
Into the world. I think that there's going to be stuff that's available for purchase that can like clean your house and take out your trash and walk your dog and all that kind of stuff. Almost like, remember in Rocky, which one was it? It was a later one. It was Rocky 4 when Apollo Creed gets beat up by Drago and they're in the house and he's got this robot, this talking robot that like does all these things in Rocky 4. It's going to be like that. They already knew this stuff was coming a long time ago in Hollywood. Because that was like 85.
Man. It's here.
The Jetsons, yes. Yeah, it's like the Jetsons. So true.
So to keep moving forward, some things that we're definitely seeing working in marketing and legal marketing in general. The continued top of the funnel is search, driving intent. We see a lot of users converting new clients utilizing that. And then also when people drop off of their website, they end up on social media profiles. So hitting them with remarketing, content, and traffic, driving ads again when you hit the social networks has been critical to closing from lead into new cases and clients. We see it applying across a lot of businesses, It's, it's that double whammy, essentially starting at search, carrying over to social, and then always making sure that you have an effective website. I just believe that's the pure cornerstone, having a website that communicates your differentiators, your successes, and knocking it out of the park from your website all the way into, your platforms, and making sure that you continue to garner more traffic, more visitors, and more users over time.
Yeah, the website is essential. And I always, me, I always say, even if it's just a landing page, even if it's just a landing page with a domain, somebody like Zach can go in there as long as you've got that and they can make it robust. But you've got to have some kind of place to send people. I'm a social media guy. And I've always said you have got to have a .com website, PatHilton.com or ZachHoffman.com or JimmyPatterson.com, whoever you are, you need to have that domain and you've got to have that username locked down on social, because when people go to your social media page and they look to click, when they're clicking on something they want to buy or they want to contact you, that form or that page that you send them to's got to be ready.
Yeah,
because that's where you're going to convert.
Exults.com, definitely. It's EXULTS. It's a 6-letter domain name. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
So the more precise you get, the shorter the domain names get, the more effective they are at communicating.
Look at this beast of a site, too, from Zach here. Huh? Look at this guy. This website looks really, really clean. Look at this, folks. You go on and you see a professional website like this. Look at this. My site doesn't look like this. Zach's going to save me. But look at how clean this is. It's very easy to get a hold there. Got their phone number in the top right corner. Web design, social, search. I mean, he's got all his stuff available. So if you find Zach, you can click right over to his stuff and see this professional presentation. And it's not just Zach Hoffman. It's a business. It's a company. It's a service. It's a brand. You guys got to think big. What? Yeah, you're Zach Hoffman or I'm Pat Hilton. Where am I leading you guys? I want you to be a social authority. I want you to have a website. I want you to be doing video, like all of these things that Zach and I, or a lot of us all do. It's all connected. And it's like it's a big ecosystem of all of us helping each other win. And that's what I think is so cool about the entrepreneur circuit, is that most people, 95% of them, want you to win. And they're willing to help you get there. It's pretty cool.
For sure. Well, definitely, we covered a lot of topics today, talking about brand stories, brand building. Essentially, it's AI and how it's starting to work its way into athletics, and some things that we're seeing working effectively in marketing. So yeah, man,
awesome.
Definitely.
It's awesome. Well, you have absolutely. Have a great day out there in Santa Monica, and make sure to let us know here in the states of the United States how we can get into the biggest markets and crush after you go out there and dominate. Let us know how it goes, and
persistence and testing, man. Persistence and testing. Just keep it up.
Persistence and testing. I like that. I mean, if you're not testing stuff every day, what are you doing? What is it? Frank Sinatra. I was reading something about everybody's publishing and how many times it took them to get the right one. And man, that guy must have done thousands of songs and had like 2 or 3 that just skyrocketed his whole career. Does it make all the other 1,000 or 1,500 songs trash? No. It just means that those ones that really captured the hearts of people, well, they would have never came out if he didn't do all 1,500 songs. You never would have heard those 2 or 3 that really hit you in your heart. And so you got to think about that when you're doing anything out there, folks, is you have to fire off so many rounds to hit the bullseye that you just got to get out there and start shooting for the target. Start going after what you want in life. So, ladies and gentlemen, Zach Hoffman broadcasting live with us. Put in those reps. Zach's out there putting in reps in California this week, so you all have no excuses. Get out there, make some moves, make some magic, and bring your dreams to life. So, Zach, as always, my buddy, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Pat. Definitely have an awesome week.
Yes, sir. Later, buddy.